Hey y'all. I didn't mean to sign on this early, but hey, what the hell? It's like 105 degrees outside. I don't know what's going on. Do you? Um, oh wow, my friend Raja Feather Kelly is here. I am going to bring Raja into the conversation. Where is Raja? Oh, let's see here. Not seeing. Oh, just waiting for Raja to join. And if you are watching right now, hey,
Hello.
can you hear me okay?
Hear you perfectly. Can you hear me
I
well?
can hear you perfectly. Oh my God, it's so good to see you.
Thrilling.
This is amazing.
Likewise.
Um, I just,
Yay.
I just got, this is like the earliest we've ever done an FPP live. I hit start and I kind of accidentally hit start and then it just is like, you just go. You
You're
just
like,
do
you're in.
it. You roll with it. You fly by the seat of your pants. Happy Pride to you,
Happy
Raja.
Pride to you as
Oh my God, this is so great. So, folks, if you're just joining us, this is FPP Live with the Future Perfect Project. I am Julie Novak, and I'm a media producer and facilitator here at the Future Perfect Project. We are a nonprofit organization that believes that the amplification of LGBTQIA plus and allied youth is a declaration for a better future for all of us. And it's Pride Month. It's been a great, amazing month. So happy to
yeah.
have you as our last guest of June, closing
Oh.
it off with a
Woo, woo,
bang with
woo.
Raja Feather Kelly. So the way we usually start these is that we'll each tell each other our name, and then in a sentence, we'll use our pronoun to describe how we're feeling and where we're connecting from. So I'll start. My name is Julie, and she is feeling happy in Kingston, New York.
My name is Raja Feather Kelly, and he, she, they is feeling more grounded in this moment than they have in a long time.
Yes, yes, I like that. Tell me a little bit more about what's making you feel grounded. Very curious.
Well, I just saw a friend who I hadn't seen in quite some time, and it made me feel super hopeful. It made me feel incredibly hopeful. Just like, right, I like creating with my friends. I like talking with my friends, and if I can continue to do that or look forward to doing that, there's a reason to get up every day.
Totally. That's right in itself, just great advice. We're going to sign off now, everyone. We've heard from Raja Feather Kelly, an amazing piece of advice about connecting with friends. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So, folks, if you don't know Raja Feather Kelly, they are an award-winning choreographer and director who works extensively in the dance and theater world. And they've very notably choreographed A Strange Loop and Fairview, both of which are two epic Pulitzer Prize winning dramas. And your artist statement, Raja Feather Kelly, you say, I use performance making and exhibition as a way to promote empathy. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk a little bit about how you use your craft and express yourself as a queer person to do work in the world, amplifying queer voices, using art as activism, um, and so on. So I guess first of all, let me just ask you, how do you identify on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum?
I identify as queer.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, right
I
there,
mean,
right there. And so for you, what was your first exposure to LGBTQIA community? And what was something like what was maybe the first thing you learned about queerness?
That's an incredible question. And I love when I'm asked this question because I really get to pause and go back and remember. It's a good lesson for myself. I certainly remember that it was television.
Yeah.
That was my first interaction with with actually like being able to see something that I felt related to, that I wasn't finding in high school, that I wasn't finding in my family, that I wasn't finding at church. And I was like, something there's something there's something about there's something about somebody that I'm watching on TV that makes me feel, and it was, I think about like the unabashed, like something about like, oh, there is something inside that I want to express that's different, that is that's specific, and I've got to get it out, and that is my it is my duty to get that out and to express that, and it will be my duty to sort of get others to do the same.
Mm.
And that for me, I think it was when I went back to high school and I realized that there was like the Queer and Questioning Club, and the first time that I sought a definition of queerness was like in that club, and they were like, well, we call it queer and questioning because we feel like if you feel like something just isn't quite right, something
Mhm.
is not as it appears, that there's something upset, there's something a little, then maybe you can begin to start asking questions of everything that you feel, of everything that you experience, and like that is a doorway into perhaps defining for yourself what your queerness is. And
Yeah.
that was so exciting to me that I could be like, well, I just get to ask a bunch of questions and define it for myself, and that will define for me what my queerness is.
Yeah, and I love too that in the club and in your experience, queerness isn't just defined by sexuality. It's defined as where I'm taking a left and the whole other part of the world is taking a right. And when I do this, it's how the world bumps up against us and how we push back. And I think that in the work we do with Future Perfect Project, I mean, we've met so many young people who identify as queer, but nothing is typical. There's many identities. There's many different kinds of sexualities. There's many moments of name changing and pronoun changing and trying things on and just being really curious as they all come up in the world and find their place. So I'm supposing I also like to ask the question like, how did community help you claim your queerness, or when did you first kind of like step into and claim your queerness? And I'm supposing it was probably in that group in high school.
Yeah, yes, I certainly feel like it's interesting. I just saw that my mother joined, and
Hey.
I really feel, hi LA, hi mom. I really feel like there was something that had to do with both being in high school, but also my not my biological mother, but my this woman LA who took care of me really created a community for me. She was a
Mm.
tattoo artist in the town that I grew up in, and began sort of like showing me the ropes of like taking care of myself and like, getting shit done. I feel like, a lot of what she would say is like adapt, overcome, and improvise.
Mm.
But I feel like there was like a community of people around her that all did the same, just kind of like took life and took the experience of life in our own hands. And like
Hmm.
that was sort of like, we are a community of like people who get shit done, who want to like thrive for a
Yes.
situation, and don't take no answer. And so I felt like there was like a bit of a bulldozer like mindset of like, if you're not interested in that mentality and that lifestyle, then like that's cool, but you can't hang out with us, and we don't want to hang
Uh,
out with you.
that's so awesome. That's like such a great model for like young people who will be watching. Like just go after what you
Yeah,
believe in and go hard. Go hard. We
exactly.
have nothing to lose. And yeah, hello to, I think it's L.A. Myers. It's great to
Yes.
have you here. Thank you for being such a huge part of Raja Feather Kelly's life. So tell me about how and when you kind of found dance as a place to really focus your self-expression.
Yeah, you're really hitting on a nerve because so many things happened around the same time. So it was like between like 12 and 15 that like something clicked for me.
Mm.
And around the same time, I was going between, and I did theater as like a young kid, but, and I still do theater now, but there was like dance was certainly, like a fulcrum, like a turning point. And it was like, I was in the theater club in middle school, and there was an assembly that the high schoolers came over to do to show you all of the things that you could do in high school that you couldn't do in the middle school. And so in middle school, you couldn't like run your own club, but in the high school, you could like have your own clubs. And one of the clubs was like a dance club. And so the dance team or like the dance club, like did an assembly, the science club did an assembly, the like track team or the, you know, Bakers Anonymous club did a piece. And when the dance club did a presentation, and I believe they did original choreography from Bob Fosse's, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to do that. I know
Yeah.
for a fact I'm supposed to do that. I'm gonna go do that. And like from that day forward, it was like dance as like an anchor. I had theater already as an anchor, and I took so that was really the moment. And then in college, or right before I went to college, I had to do this thing of like, do I choose dance or do I choose theater? But also I want to be a writer. Do I choose writing? And I had to sort of choose a school where I could do all of them.
Yeah. And what school did you choose?
I ended up going to Connecticut College, which is a small private school in Connecticut. And I went there because I could have a major in dance and a second major in English, but then also stay on campus over the breaks to do theater.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So I wonder too, like, you found your calling in dance for the love of it. I mean, Fosse, like I watch Fosse. I'm not a dancer, and I'm just like, I want to do that. I want to do the frug. I want to do the Fosse amoeba. Um, as you started to create your own work and choreograph, how do you use dance, and how does your dance how is your queerness represented? How do you represent the politics of queerness and race in your choreography?
Yeah, well, it's what's exciting to me is that it's not something I have to think about all of the time because
Yeah.
it's just who I am. I am a person who has to think about their race all of the time, and I'm a person who enjoys thinking about the fact that they're queer all of the time. And it goes back to what I understood and what I was taught and what I still believe in what queerness is, which has a lot to do with questioning. You know,
Mm.
I know that things can be this way, and I
Mm-hmm.
certainly look at theater, right? Theater is in a canon, and so theater can have a lot of formulas. And my motto is kind of like, well, what, like, let's just like question it a little bit more. And something that's exciting to me, although I identify as both a choreographer but also a director and also a theater maker. And so the thing that I hold firm is everybody has a body, right?
Mm.
And but everybody's body is different and does different things. And for me, in order to celebrate who I am, if that's my race, or to celebrate who you are in your race, or to celebrate me and my queerness, or you and your queerness, or your relationship to queerness, then we do that through our bodies. That's what
Yeah.
we own, have. And so it starts with that little bit of nuance, and then it really grows depending on the production into like how much, like, and I talk a lot about volume. I'm like, oh, like right now we're at like a 7 on our queerness and a 3 on our,
Mm.
racial identities. Like let's bring our like racial identities up to a 9, and let's bring our queerness to or like there's something about volume because it's there no matter what. So how
Yeah.
we turn it up, down is how I think, and do that within our bodies is how I think I like to bring those politic into play when I'm creating work or helping someone else to create a work.
Yeah, speaking of which, I mean, a great place where all the convergence of body and queerness and color all came into play for you is A Strange Loop, which you got to choreograph. Um, how did you get involved in doing that show, and what did it feel like to be kind of, a first, this historical moment in that show of being the first um, all black uh, musical cast, and there were a few other firsts, which I'm totally forgetting right now. But how did that feel, and how did you end up getting involved, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, well, so I remember there were a few people who wanted me to meet Michael R. Jackson. And so I really had no idea about the show, although I knew later I learned that the show had been in development for a number of years before I was invited. But people were like, you should meet Michael. You should meet Michael. And I was like, okay, it's really funny. There's a guy named Michael Jackson who's a playwright. That's really funny. Um, and, um, and then I was invited to a showing at the Public Theater that Michael was having where he was singing some of his own work. And so I remember having something to do and being like, I don't know if I can make this. And I was like, okay, fine. And I ended up like renting a car so that I could like go to the public and then like drive to this other thing I had to do. And so I went and I saw Michael sing and I was like, oh my gosh, this man is incredible and this work really speaks to me. I feel related to it. And so I went up afterwards and I was like, hi, my name is, he's like, you're Raja. And I was like, whoa, 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 you're Michael. Congrats. We need to talk. Like, can you come to like another showing of this work I have, A Strange Loop, like tomorrow? And I was like, I don't think I can. Like, I have this thing that I'm going to, but also I'm feeling a little bit of kismet where it's like, I felt really connected to what you're doing. You kind of know me. I like, people think we should meet. Like, I'll figure it out. So then the next day I went and I saw a reading, like a, music stands reading of A
Yeah.
Strange Loop. And I really fell in love with it. And I felt sort of, and this is how I know when something is exciting to me or like it's a project I want to do, is like I immediately felt protective of it, where I was
Mm.
like, I hope, and excuse my language, it's like, I don't want anyone to F this up. I was like, I feel so connected to this. I don't know if there's a choreographer. I don't know if I'm even asked to be here because of that, but I don't want anyone else to touch this because
Yeah.
might mess it up. And not to think that I too couldn't mess it up. I was very afraid, and maybe people don't enjoy the way that I did it, but I did feel very protective over it, and I was very excited by what Michael was doing and felt like connected to it. And then Michael was like, I want you to be the choreographer, and I've seen some of the work you do, and I like the way that you tackle things, and we had a couple conversations with Michael and of course Stephen Brackett, who is the director and has been with the work in a long time, and they seem to really vibe with my ideas.
Mm.
And something that Michael and I and also Stephen shared a great deal with is not thinking that blackness or queerness or any kind of identifier is a monolith.
Yeah.
None of this is a single vision of one person
Yeah.
or one idea of queerness, one idea of blackness. And that's something that we all felt very excited and firm on. And so then my job really was, in the best sense of the way, to like really, turn the volume up on each individual's their own expression of queerness and blackness and being and humanness, and that was my job. And then make that choreography, make that repeatable, make that musical, make that melodic, and that to me is really thrilling.
Yeah, that's what's so great about this era that we're living in this moment, is that there's more and more work being created that is not monolithic anymore. It doesn't show the queer character as the depressed and suicidal person in the corner with no friends, with no family. There's a bigger picture now that more there's so much more media and so many more opportunities to create media and self-create media as queer folks. It's really amazing, and I hear that. But I've been hearing that a lot in relation to all different kinds of identities. This idea of blank is not a monolith. Like we all have such unique, specific narratives and stories that we have, and we also just happen to be queer. And it's like, but
Right.
that doesn't have to be the thing that's like,
It does not.
at the forefront. Um, so so what advice might you give a young LGBTQIA plus person watching in terms of about pursuing creativity no matter what?
Yeah. Well, this is gonna sound like tough love. And I mean this in the best way, and I'll explain myself after I say it. But I think the advice, and I don't love giving advice, that's why this is kind of tough love, because I'm like, we all sort of figure out our journeys. In many ways, I wish that I knew what I know now when I was younger, but also maybe that wouldn't have made me where I am, at
I
the same
got
time.
you.
I don't want people to go through any pain or any harm in order to learn their lessons. There are ways to learn lessons that don't have to do with, going through um, um, the trenches.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be bad in order to learn a lesson, but it is important to learn a lesson. So my two pieces of advice are mind your business, and no one cares.
I love
Just don't. I, 'Cause this I
it.
I think distracted me from getting sooner to where I am now, worrying about everybody else, worrying about what someone else thinks, or or trying to do things to make other people happy. And like, if I just minded my own business,
Mm.
literally put my mind on what I want, what excites me, what interests me, what makes me curious, what doesn't make me curious, who makes me happy. If I just like minded my own business, then I would have been more in touch with me sooner. And if I would have realized that like people only pretend to care, they,
Yeah.
you think people are giving you advice, you think people are like, but really like, or you think people like are out to get you. Or that someone's opinion of what you're doing or what you're thinking will change you, but they don't. Nobody cares, because they should be minding their own business as well. And so
Right.
if we all minded our own business and just supported one another by minding our own business and not, overstepping, I think we would all be much happier. And if there's a young person out there, or even an older young person out
Yeah. Yeah.
to hear that, mind your business and nobody cares, I think we'd all get along much. And I have to too also remind myself of that often. So I'm happy to be saying it now because
Yeah. As I put myself out there in the world, I'm constantly, as an activist, as an artist, like having to remind myself, like, just mind my business. And if people have an issue with me, I'm getting somewhere,
yeah,
at least
yeah,
like I'm earning a badge, especially within activism. People are going to come at you, and with your work, people are always going to critique. And sometimes those are the same people who are just sitting at home on their laptop, not doing anything, you know? So, so if, um, so it, we believe that the artistic expression, as I said, of young people is a declaration of a better future for us all. And the LGBTQIA plus youth that we work with, we also believe they're really living in a future that hasn't yet arrived. Is there a specific way that when you were young you felt that you were living in a future that hadn't arrived yet, and that maybe you're living in that reality now? Tell me a little bit about that.
I do actually. I had a conversation with someone because I for the Bates Dance Festival, I curated an anthology of writers, and it was called The Future Impossible, which is very similar to this. And in a conversation, me and this incredible artist, Sydney Mosley, we were like, oh wait, we're actually already in the future. Like we're just asking people to catch up to like, hey y'all, we're in the future. Come join us. It's great. And
Yeah,
where we um where we meet friction is when someone is doesn't see the future that we see or isn't willing to acknowledge that it already exists. We
yeah,
don't paint, a different future. It's there. Just join in
yeah,
the non-culty way possible. Just
yeah.
come there.
Yeah, I love that. Similarly, kind of like, I mean, this is a kind of a hard one, and but we ask it anyway, is what is your idea of a perfect future for yourself or for the world or for both?
Yeah. I really think I think it has to do with empathy, and that's why that is at the center of my work. Um,
Yeah,
and it's like, and I feel that empathy holds ethics, it holds um, humanity, it holds love, passion, compassion. It holds so much, and sometimes I think we mistake empathy just to perhaps be like, yeah, it's just like knowing what someone else knows, like from my own experience. Like, oh, you wear glasses, me too. I can empathize that our eyes hurt when we don't. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's like just the surface of it. But to really take on the psychological and emotional and physical understanding of another person, I think it's a lot. It's not an easy task. But if we were able to constantly be shifting from me, you, community, me, you, community, me, you, community, we might just go a little bit easier on ourselves,
hmm,
and then learn how to go a little bit easier towards our partners, and then learn how to go a little bit easier on the community around us. We're all fighting for something, and
yeah,
we'll continue to do that no matter what. But we can do that together, or we could do that apart. And I think it's better if we do it together. Um,
yeah, yeah. And I mean, and it's crucial. I feel like, part of what you're saying is artistic self-expression is crucial in creating a better future for all of us. And for you, you know, what is the for you the most comfortable way? I mean, I know dance certainly, but when you're creating work and you want to elicit empathy, what are some of the techniques as an artist that you use in your writing or in your movement? If you could describe that, it might be too
yeah,
broad of a question, but
when I'm making a work, I'm really trying not to tell, but I'm trying to show.
yeah,
um, Thing I think about, and I often I often want to create an experience for someone, something that I remember as I was learning about dance and learning about directing, was that they talk about kinesthetic empathy, right? Like that I can perform a move and you can perform a move,
mm,
feel gravity together, and that's like that is a model for what we're trying to do when we create a piece of work. Like, how can you create something so that someone watching can imagine themselves in it, they can embody. And so if they're embodying, does that bring us closer to empathy, because they're like,
yeah,
oh, I see myself and
hmm,
I recognize myself. It's like making work that's a mirror, so is that people can do that. And I don't know if I get it right all of the time, but when there are those few moments where someone feels themselves in the work, I feel like I'm getting closer to understanding just how to create empathy with theater and dance and media and
yeah.
writing.
It's what's so powerful about storytelling in any medium, and like true storytelling especially, is like you put yourself out there in a way that's so raw, um, and and a way that you think nobody's probably ever felt this way or had this experience, and people can always connect and relate because someone has had that experience, someone has felt that way, And so, you know, it's just the empathy, it's a very a quick route to empathy versus trying to intellectualize about it. Like this whole
Right.
idea, I love this like show versus tell. Like I think it is a way to disarm people to really focus where they might not if you were lecturing them or something like
Yeah.
that. Um,
So someone once told me this story, or I read it in an article or something, and it was like let's say, and I use this like when I teach classes sometimes, it's like, let's say I was like, oh, there's a mural on Fifth Avenue, right? And I really want you to see this mural because when I saw it, like it changed my life. Like it hit me in a way that like changed everything. And so I could be like, let's go look at this mural, let's go look at this mural, and like grab your hand and race you to this mural and like point at it and point at it. And like all the only thing you would experience is me grabbing your hand, like I get that you're so excited, and like maybe you'd be like, yeah, it's kind of cool, but your experience of that would be like me. Or I could be like, hey, let's like take a walk, and I like will walk you by the mural, and maybe you'll see it, and maybe you'll be like, oh my god, this is changing my life, and then I like secretly have already experienced it, and I'm like, yeah, right, it's like so amazing. Or like I take you for a walk, and you see something else, and
yeah.
so something else changes your mind. Like that's how I think about creating art. It's like you're taking someone for a walk, and like yes, there's something that's there that you want them to see, but if you jump up and down and tell them to look at it, they're going to remember you. They might see the thing you want them to see and have their own experience the same way that you did, or they might have an experience of something else, and then you've like doubled the amount.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So, folks who are just joining us or kind of joined us a little bit late, this is FPP Live with the Future Perfect Project. I am Julie Novak, media producer, workshop facilitator, and interviewer tonight of the choreographer, producer, director Raja Feather Kelly. Overall, amazing theater maker. If you want to learn more about us, you can go to thefutureperfectproject.com. We do workshops, free arts and education workshops for LGBTQIA plus youth and allies all over the world, and it's free. And you can check out our offerings every Tuesday night. Uh, we do our FPOW Tuesdays, Future Perfect online workshops. We have different topics. You can come and drop by those anytime. We also have some summer intensives, a poetry deep dive with Celeste Lacine, and Future Perfect Performing Arts Intensive with Z Infante. So check out thefutureperfectproject.com or follow us at the Future Perfect Project. So for you, Raja Feather, what are some things coming up that you're working on currently?
Well, I just finished a TV show called The Kill One Race, which you can watch at
Hmm.
thekillonerace.com. And my company will have another show that we're working on, which will have a premiere in December at New York Live Arts. And in the
Yeah.
meantime, my show Hysteria is on tour, so you can catch it in Portland or Vienna or Seattle coming up. And
Yes.
and is there one? And then the show, I have another show. It's a solo called Ugly, which is part one of Hysteria, and a show called Blue, which is part three of Ugly, and that, that
Okay.
will be that will be at Impulse Dance Dance Festival, which you can catch in Vienna or you can catch online.
Can you give folks a little bit of a synopsis about Hysteria, folks who might be able to catch it live?
Yeah. So I made a work actually called Ugly, and it has three parts. Ugly, Black Queer Zoo is part one, Hysteria is part two, and Blue is part three. And it really tackles this question of, do we make culture or does culture make us? And
Mm.
so it is a in many ways like an exorcism of that question in as a film, as a dance and theater film.
Wow. Sounds
So you go to
amazing.
the.com and get all this information there.
Say that one more time because you cut out a little bit.
Yes, thefeathertheory.com.
Thefeathertheory.com. I'm so glad that you joined me tonight. And are you staying cool where you are?
I'm trying some days.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Raja Feather Kelly, thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing more of the work you do and staying in touch. And I really appreciate you joining us tonight. And thank you all for watching. And this interview in full will be available later on Instagram, our stories, and also on YouTube. So thank you.
Yay.
I hope you
Thank
have
you
a
so much,
great,
Julia.
you're welcome. Have a great night. Thanks, Raja. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.